Rev up your engines. Here we got a new used 2003 Tacoma TRD. The guy just bought it for 15 grand. And we'll see what shape it's in. They're expensive, yes, but price a new one, yeah, 20-something grand cheaper or so. Let's see what it's like. Now, why did he buy this? Because he had a 93 Ranger with like 120-something thousand, and he got 6,500 bucks for that. So really, he didn't pay too much for that. He got a vehicle that's 2 to 3 times as well built with less mileage on it. No, he made out pretty good, unless I find something wrong with it. But he seems like a pretty intelligent guy. I don't think there's really any problems with it. He did put new tires and new rims on, cost him about $1,200. He didn't have to, but he wants it to look nicer, and what the heck. Now, it's an 03. The one thing you want to look at these, see if there's rust underneath. That's where the money is. And you can see, okay, solid as a rock. The only thing you see is superficial rust. This does not have a problem. Some of these did, but it depends on where they were, too. Now, luckily, he lives in Georgia, and this was a Southern car, too. You see, it's clean. You're looking at an 03 Tacoma, you gotta look at that frame. And if it's rusted, now Toyota does replace them, but it's higgledy-piggledy. They got thousands of them, and I've had a guy in Illinois, they replaced him, but a guy in Indiana with the same truck, they told him to take a trip. We're not gonna put a frame on that thing, so you see one with frame damage, don't buy it. Now, the one disadvantage of these older ones with V6, being a TRD, is he sheds about 15 miles a gallon, right? Well, son's 1-year-old one, he gets in the 20s and sometimes almost 30 on the highway. They can get good gas mileage. Strangely enough, his 1-year-old TRD gets better gas mileage than his 8-year-old Tacoma that's only got a 4-cylinder engine in it. So, technology does move on. Since it's an 03, it's got the 3400, but you need to change the rubber timing belt every once in a while. It's probably a good idea if he changes it at some point in time. It's just they're not made out of change. You get newer to change, you don't have to think about anything. But it's a typical Toyota. You can see almost all the parts are original. Alternator, power steering, pump, AC. It's all original. And I'm sure it all still works. Let's get out the computer and see what it says. All right, so here we go. Diagnostics, auto detect. Got 104,315 miles on it. Let's figure it out. You can see, being a TRD, it's got some decent seats in the back and a back window that opens. The older I like it, it's got a manual brake. You pull it. It's not an electric button. It's one that you can rely on. Old school, so there's nothing on the steering wheel except the horn. And I gotta say, for an old truck, it's in excellent shape. As we can see on the VIN, okay, 2003, so it's 20 years old, and it was made in California. We'll turn it on, crank up the AC. Oh, codes, so let's look at live data. There you go, you can see there's no trouble codes. Let's start looking at normal stuff. The long-term fuel trim for bank 1 is 5.47. It's adding 5.47% fuel, so it's running a little bit lean, which wouldn't surprise me. You get a used vehicle, probably sat for a while. This thing is 20 years old. It's only got 100,000 miles, so it wasn't driven much. So I would say put some of Bernie's fuel injection cleaner to help clean the injectors. There aren't any vacuum leaks or anything. It's idling perfectly fine. It's not shaking or anything. You can see the equivalency ratio. Look, 1.00 is perfect, 1.007, 0.995, so it's hovering back and forth to perfect. It's only off a tiny bit. Hey, it's 20 years old, what do you want? Hey, the thing's in good shape, probably needs a little cleaning. It's running a little bit lean, but you're better running lean than rich, because it's bad enough the gas mileage it gets now running lean. You make it run a little richer, the gas mileage will go even further down. Okay, so this thing's 20 years old, so when we back up, there's not going to be a backup camera, but he added it on, okay. The Kenwood did, because it had the original cassette player. He didn't want that anymore. Take off the brake and away we go. Really smooth idling. I mean, look at this thing. It doesn't shake, even though it's 20 years old. Sounds exactly like a 6-cylinder Toyota pickup truck's supposed to sound. I don't hear any wheel bearing noise, don't hear any transmission or bearing noise. Still corners perfectly fine. It's a truck. It rides like a truck. It rides like it's supposed to. Test out the brakes. No problem, the ABS works, stops on a dime, doesn't make any noise. Little drag strip on Tobacco Road, yes, it is actually called Tobacco Road. Looking behind me, there's nobody behind me, which is good, so we can come to stop and then take off. Here we go, nobody behind us, and ready, set, go! Now, they're not race trucks. It's a 6-cylinder engine. It's not tremendous horsepower, but you can see it shifts smooth, doesn't have any problems. They're not race trucks. This isn't a V8 truck. It's not a race truck. It's a truck for getting you here to there, and that's why this guy bought this truck. He bought it for everyday transportation. He just wanted a regular truck that he could drive every day. And in these older ones, if he would have gotten four-wheel drive, his gas mileage would have been even worse than what he gets now. I pass on, look, we're doing like 43 with flooring. It accelerates, but you can see the needle doesn't move all that quickly. But then again, it'll probably run another 300, 400, 500,000 miles. I mean, hey, it's a great pickup truck. And when we come to the stop, it's not one of those modern ones that's going to shut you off with the auto shutdown. It's fine. Now you hear a lot of rattling because he's got a lot of junk in here. That's not the truck, that's his junk. The AC blows fast and cold. And I found it rather hilarious that he got rid of his same year 2003 Ford Ranger to get this. It was a smart move. He got 69 or so for his old Ford, so he paid more for this, but it's a lot better truck. And I gotta say, considering he has extremely aggressive tire pattern on, it's relatively quiet. Tire treads are that aggressive usually make more noise, but this one really doesn't. I gotta say, I'd have no qualms of jumping this truck, driving to California and back. I'm sure it'd make it with no problems at all. So there we have it. Sure, it is technically 21 years old, because 2024s are out now. But, hey, it's an immaculate shed. The only thing wrong is that they're gas hogs. There's nothing you can do about that, right? Except buy a new one, but then you're pushing 40 G's, too. You can buy a lot of gas for $30,000, you know? Runs fine, AC works fine. It's a great truck. A lot of people would think, why would you buy a 21-year-old truck for that kind of money? My question would be, why would you not if you want a nice truck that's going to last? Let me tell you, this doesn't have all the electronic crap, electronic parking brake, super complex electronic fuel injection, all that stuff. It doesn't have all those electronics on it, so it can last basically forever. He's very anally admitted about taking care of it. Look how beautiful it is. I'm sure he's polished the heck out of the thing. Hey, pretty good deal. If you can find one like this, it's going to be rare for you to find one though, because 20-year-old Toyotas with 100,000 miles on them, they're like hen's teeth. If you can find one, buy it. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Slick Suburban says, I'm going to change out the battery in my 06 Chevy 1500 Suburban. I know you did a video, but tell me what I'm supposed to do so I don't lose anything electronically. All right, well, it's real easy. Your OBD port, onboard diagnostic port, you can buy a plug that plugs into there that hooks up to a 12-volt battery or has a 12-volt battery built in. I just have the plug myself that you plug in, and then it's got a positive and a negative clamp coming off the wires. And then I just have another battery that I have hooked up to that. Okay, you do that first. That powers the electronics. So then when you disconnect the battery of the car and put a new one in, it didn't lose power to the computers and stuff. Just be careful when you disconnect the power of the battery to keep the positive terminal, maybe put a rag over it so it doesn't touch the body, because you're still going to have some power because you got the little power going through the OBD. So when you take off the positive terminal of your old battery, wrap it with a piece of cloth or something, and then take the negative and then replace the battery, put it all back on. Then you want. And these memory savers, go to Amazon, you can get it for like 12, 15 bucks. They work perfectly fine. You just plug them in, and just my advice is to get one that's got two clamps. You can clamp it onto a 12-volt battery and it'll hold it up. And then you won't lose any of the memory and all that crap, the radio channels. And modern cars have so much computer memory. If you unplug the battery entirely and there's no power to the computer, then it will reset everything. It might not idle right. It is a good idea to use one of those memory savers when you change the battery. Bazanti says, I got a few bits of oil in my 5-quart oil container from my last oil change. Can I use the oil at the bottom after the next 5,000 miles, or is it going to be ruined by the moisture? All right, go ahead and use it. It's engine oil from the ground, right? It's been sitting there for millions of years. Sitting in a little container ain't going to hurt anything. Engine oil is different than, let's say, brake fluid. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs water vapor and it goes bad. Once you use the brake fluid, you can use it for a month or two as long as you seal the top, but you don't want to leave it around much because it will go bad. Engine oil, no. It could sit there for probably 100 years. It wouldn't bother at all. You can collect it. What I do is, I get cars that, you got like half a quart left. And I just save the half quart in that particular container myself. The next time I change it, I take that other half quart and put it in there. Then I'll use the whole quart on something that I need a whole quart for, or just keep adding until it's full and then use it for itself. It will not hurt engine oil. That doesn't get bothered by sitting there. I mean, put the cap on it. You don't want water getting in accidentally or some weird crap happening, but just screw the cap back on. It's perfectly good to use the next time. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.